The Shuttleworth Collection's grass aerodrome at Old Warden near Biggleswade in Bedfordshire provides the perfect setting for a display which features the racers and record breakers of 60 years ago, plus a host of aeroplanes from the famous de Havilland Moth family, including the classic Tiger Moth trainer. Even the visiting aircraft here today have to be powered by the de Havilland Gypsy engine, which forms the main theme of today's event. Otherwise, they're not allowed in. So the lineup of immaculately restored veterans really sets the scene. To increase the nostalgia, the Great British Picnic brings together 200 road vehicles dating before 1956. The event recaptures something of the atmosphere and sedate pace of life in the 30s.
It's a wonderful sight to see all those aircraft from the 20s and 30s down there, all of which still fly, of course. It's just like a scene out of an old movie. It's incredible.
The Moth made it possible for many more people to learn to fly. Now, I've got a brochure here from 1927 on the de Havilland Moth two-seater light aeroplane. In those days, you could buy one of these, ex-works and ready to fly away, for just £730. Actually, the manufacturers made some rather interesting claims. For instance, that it's so simple in its construction that it could be kept in perfect order by anybody with only ordinary knowledge of motor cars. Anyone can learn to fly a Moth in a matter of a few hours. Folding wings enabled it to be kept in any ordinary garage. The Moth flies on commercial brands of petrol and oil, which can be obtained from any wayside garage. And how about this one? Any open field is a potential aerodrome for the Moth. It leaves the ground with pilot, passenger and luggage after a run of only 100 yards. The Gypsy Moth in today's display was built in 1930 and is the aeroplane on which the actor Ralph Richardson learned to fly. It was presented to the Shuttleworth Collection in 1977. The Percival Gull 6 is the aircraft in which Jean Batten became the first woman to fly the South Atlantic Ocean in 1935. In 1937, she flew from Australia to England in a new record solo time of 5 days, 18 hours and 15 minutes. The Miles Hawkspeed 6 used to live at Old Warden until it was sold abroad a few years ago. The only survivor of the three built, it first flew in June 1935 and has come all the way from California to be here today. As recently as 1972, it took second place in the 50th anniversary King's Cup Air Race at a speed of 195.5 miles per hour.
One is Angus McVitie, shot down. An aircraft which hasn't been seen flying in public for just over 20 years.
Designed for advanced flight training and competition flying, the nimble Arrow Active has a reputation for being fast and tricky to fly. The first Active appeared in 1931, and the only other example built was this one, the Mark II, which made its debut the following year. It was stored from 1935 until 1957, when it joined the fleet of the Tiger Club, taking part in many races. It's now restored to its original form, with a 120 horsepower Gypsy 3 engine, and is based here at Old Warden. The de Havilland Moth Club's Diamond 9 formation team was founded 3 years ago by its leader, Charlie Shea Simmons. The name no doubt reflecting the desire to emulate their professional counterparts, the Red Arrows. For it's an amateur team, and its pilots include a Concorde first officer, a dentist, a plastic surgeon, and a retired company director. All but one of the aircraft are owned by their pilots, and one of the Tigers is 25 years older than its owner.
And pop back in for a three-way crossover.
Now, what's it like flying this Dragonfly?
It's quite a responsibility because it's the only one left in the world. They've all, of all the ones that were built, they've all been ground looped, in other words, swung off the runway and crashed and broken up into small pieces. And this is the only survivor. So it's quite an awesome responsibility, but it's a great pleasure, a great honor to be allowed to fly it.
Just tell me what makes you chaps who are professional pilots, who are doing it every day of the week, in your days off, wanting to carry on flying these kind of aircraft.
We fly professionally to be able to afford to buy the fuel to fly these little ones. It's a real joy to fly these vintage airplanes. They're so full of character.
These are very much fun to fly. Tricky at times, but fun to fly as well. And I think that's the attraction. It's on like a busman's holiday, I think.
The star of the show, this graceful monoplane, the de Havilland DH-88 Comet, was designed, built and flown in only 9 months to compete in the McRobertson Air Race of 1934 for a £10,000 prize. The race from England to Australia marked the centenary of the founding of the state of Victoria. De Havilland built 3 Comets for race competitors, and this machine, named Grosvenor House, which won the race, is the sole survivor. It crossed the finishing line at Melbourne 70 hours and 54 minutes later to win both the speed and handicap sections of the race.
Well, that beautiful de Havilland Comet certainly wouldn't look out of place competing here in the Isle of Wight. Mind you, the pilot might not be quite so keen because the weather is certainly deteriorating fast. It's very blustery, but we come to the final race for this year's Schneider Trophy.
Out of the 50 qualifiers, 8 have decided not to go because of the high winds, which make the lighter aircraft very difficult to handle. It's okay for these big twins, but for the smaller ones, not so easy. This is a Cessna 195, built in 1949 with a 350 horsepower radial engine. Now, first off the line is Alf Hawley in his Rally 100. It was the last of 166 of these aircraft to be built. You'll notice he's staying low to build up airspeed. As he flies into the bad weather, he starts his turn over the orange marker to join the race circuit. Off goes another. This blue and yellow aircraft, number 91, is a Beagle Pup flown by Terry Hiscock. Very elegant little aircraft. And here is the RAF version of the Pup, the ab initio trainer, the Beagle Bulldog. A lot of RAF pilots have cut their teeth on this aeroplane. There goes Terry Hiscock in his civilian Pup as he goes dipping over that hedge, in fact diving into the valley to get every available ounce of airspeed. Now here's another RAF entrant, Flight Lieutenant Bob Miller in the de Havilland Chipmunk. So there we are then, and it'll take 37 minutes to get all the competitors into the air.
Sophia Hemming, you qualified for the final, but you're not flying. Why?
Well, it's very disappointing, but you have to make a decision when the conditions are as windy as this. And we've been promised really horrendous weather. In fact, I've made about 4 decisions before finally I was sort of cajoled into deciding not to do it. I've got an airframe limit which I must stick to, and 32 knots at the moment is and promising to get worse, is not going to bring me home safely, really.
Well, Sophia is obviously a very disappointed lady, but equally clearly she made the right decision in these conditions. Let's take you now from the wind of the Isle of Wight